Mapable USA podcast, where we put you on the map. This is Ron Costa, broadcasting mobile today in the beautiful state of New York. And today we're going to be talking about opportunity zones, some creative usages of it, and maybe some unappreciated elements. And before we do that, let's introduce Vicki Hutchmala from the QOZ Marketplace. Vicki, how are you doing today?
I'm fabulous today, Ron. It's kind of, we haven't done a podcast for a long time. We had a lot of issues with our site and that. So this is exciting where it's like we're doing it for the first time. And we have one of our favorite guests, and we're going to talk about opportunity zones. And the weather in Vegas is like, this is why we live in Vegas. We endure the 120 degrees just so we can have this weather now because it's perfect. But I think we should get started, Ron.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful
Absolutely. So our guest, Vicki, is no stranger to our audience. Let's bring on Gerry Reihsen. Gerry's the securities attorney. He's actually a leading securities attorney in the area of opportunity zones, and he's been on the show many times. We did a whole series with him in the last season. So, Gerry, welcome back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. It's great to be back, and it's good to know that you're kind of re-kicking off things after the troubles that you can have in the cyber world. I'm happy to be on, and I guess maybe the first one on after you've gotten kind of set up again.
Exactly. This is the new season of Mappable, and we have something in common with MGM now, right? Because MGM was hacked very badly, right, Vicki? And all the casinos are down or something. So there you go.
That's right.
Did you have to pay $12 million or whatever to get that going? Yeah?
Just about, Gerry, and that's why it took so long.
Yeah, I had to find any $12 million checks I left uncashed on the kitchen table. It's hard to find that, but anyway. But I'm really glad to start this new season. It's going to be great, just like always. And what better way to start it than bringing you on? Because I know we did so many episodes with you. Everyone learned a lot about opportunity zones. So why don't we pick up where we left off last time and kind of figure out where the state of opportunity zones is today, and maybe some of the creative usages that people may not actually even know about.
Well, sure. So. Yeah, the state of the opportunity zone space is that we still have a fabulous tax incentive program, with the main incentive being that persons can use capital gains to establish businesses and invest in assets with unlimited tax-free upside after a 10-year hold at the investment level at the very top. And there's also other benefits of the Opportunity Zone program, one of which is that has expired. That was a slight reduction in the capital gains that are invested, and one of which gets less valuable every day. That is, you get to defer taxation on your capital gains that you invest until December 31st, 2026. But that doesn't really matter because the big thing is unlimited tax-free upside for what you create, and the businesses you create, and the investments you make under the Opportunity Zone statute. So all's good. It's still, I think I did one podcast with you all saying that something like more than 90% of CPAs, business attorneys, wealth advisors, investment are committing, might be argued to be committing financial malpractice by not knowing about the Opportunity Zones statute, and that remains the case for some reason.
Really? Even after all this time?
After all this time, people just don't bring it up with their clients who have capital gains. And even if the client never wanted to invest in anything, it's a way to defer capital gains until 2026. So
it's a no-brainer.
I don't know. I just don't know why. You would think it's a no-brainer, but nope.
Evidently not.
In fact, I had a conference call yesterday with some guys in a real estate firm that regularly invest in real estate projects, and they had no idea the thing existed. And I walked them through it. By the end of the time, by the end of the call, they said that their minds are blowing because they just never knew. And the funny thing is that Opportunity Zone capital is very aggressive capital. It has to get invested quickly into a qualified opportunity fund within 180 days generally. And if you have something set up to harvest that capital, you're at a big advantage if you're someone who is capital raising and investing in projects or businesses or want to get more funding for your own business. So it's strange, but still not as pervasive as it ought to be.
That's crazy. Maybe we should do an opportunity zone convention in Vegas, Gerry, and we can educate everybody on how good these are. What do you think?
Well, I think that's fine. The first few years, there were actually several organizations that did this for the first few years of the Opportunity Zone statute. I even had a events firm that did it. But the COVID thing put a lot of those, including my convention thing, out of business because you couldn't get together. I lost a good bit of money on some conferences that I had already planned, and then kind of the people who stayed in the business, I think they've kind of figured that, well, everybody who wants to know knows now. There's not as many people wanting to know as we thought, so they've kind of died down too. So
that's odd.
I don't know. It's very odd. It's an unbelievable program. I don't think we'll ever see anything like it again, yet people are taking advantage. But the purpose of this call was mostly to talk about creative things that you can do with the Opportunity Zone program and unappreciated elements of it. I mean, I'm happy to talk to individuals about the details about how it works, but suffice it to say that if you ever generate capital gains, you can create a vehicle to both defer being taxed on those capital gains and then to make investments with those capital gains that have unlimited tax-free upside after a 10-year hold. So if anybody wants more details about that, they can contact me. And I know you'll provide my contact information. But I'm going to assume for this podcast that people pretty much know the basics. And I'm going to talk about some things that people don't generally know or haven't thought about doing with the Opportunity Zone program. So
Gerry, let me ask you one question first. In your opinion, what do you think the biggest advantage and best way to use Opportunity Zones, if you know all about them, what's the best way to go about taking the biggest advantage from them?
Well,
I mean, do you invest in the real estate?
I think every individual, besides the institutional opportunities with Opportunity Zones, I think every individual ought to have their own self-directed Opportunity Zone fund arrangement because it really acts like a Roth IRA on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not have it to do personal investing and similar things? And then there's some long-term benefits as well that we'll be talking about. But as far as what you do with it, there are some real advantages to, I guess I'd put it this way. The most reliable methodology to take advantage of the Opportunity Zone unlimited tax-free upside is to invest in arrangements that contain assets that are reliably going to increase in value over a 10-year to 20-year period. Because you know you're going to get that benefit. So real estate fits in there, but other things can fit in there too, including collectibles, classic cars, firearms, artwork, maybe even investing in barrels of whiskey for aging and that type of thing.
You mean buying and selling it?
Yes.
You mean to buy it and sell it to create the capital gains to invest in the Opportunity Zone?
Yes, subject to the 10-year hold, but yes, that's right. But so real estate investing has dominated this space. But on the other hand, investing in operating businesses, including tech businesses, now that's less reliably going to produce a enterprise that will have capital appreciation over a 10 to 20-year period. However, it's almost like playing the lottery, right? So if you set up your fabulous tech business today as an Opportunity Zone business, well, if you happen to be Google, you're going to have billions of dollars of tax-free upside after a 1022 flip. If you happen to be, what was the thing before Facebook, like Friendster or something? If you happen to be that one, well, after 10 years, you're not going to, or Netscape.
Yeah.
If you happen to be one of those, after 10 years, you're going to have no value. But it's so the asset type investing should give you reliable, untaxed, tax-free upside. But investing in operating businesses, it just depends upon how it's more like, if it's a tech type business, more like a lottery type. If it's a more standard business, the businesses that are reliably going to have greater value 10 years from now are businesses that are based on a cash flow, on adding recurring income over time, like for instance, maybe property management, and that builds in value based upon increasing recurring revenue. I've done a bunch of property management companies as opportunity zone businesses, and they know they're going to grow, and in 10 years, they can sell their property management business with much more recurring income because they've added more and more clients, and the value of the business is based upon a net present value of the recurring income, recurring revenue. So, that is pretty much a no-brainer to put as an opportunity zone vehicle. But you just have to look at each operating business and think about whether it makes sense to structure them as opportunity zone business. But that's one of the things to talk about here.
Yes.
Well,
so you're talking about really, you're talking about any kind of business with a subscription model, then, right? That would be ideal.
Any business with a subscription model would be really a good model for this, especially if you reliably knew you're going to build those subscriptions, and after 10 years, you would want to be selling out.
Right. Exactly. Right now on TV now with all these apps with your Netflix, your Fubo, all this other stuff that's going on there, and you have to subscribe to each one of them individually. You realize how much money that you're spending each month just on each one of these different programs, and I think to myself, boy, these guys must be making a ton of money when many times however many people are subscribed.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so just to get going on it, first I wanted to talk about unanticipated or underappreciated areas where you can get that first step, that is investing into a qualified opportunity fund or a QOF under the Opportunity Zone program. So as I mentioned, you need to have generally capital gains or Section 1231 gains or Section 1250 depreciation, anything that kind of feeds into your Schedule D on your tax form, to be able to invest that into an opportunity zone fund, what's called a QOF. And you generally have to do that within 180 days. But most people know who are in the space, but many people who are not in the space don't know, most don't know, is that the 180-day period is not limited to certain types of things. If you generate a capital gain through a partnership, then in addition to your 180 days, you can invest in a QOF from the period of December 31st of the year when the gain is recognized through September 10th of the following year. So whenever I get a client in and they're talking about capital gains, I actually ask them what capital gains have they generated since the beginning of the prior year, and if any of them came from partnerships. So that's one thing that is kind of underappreciated. Another thing that is really underappreciated, and even in the space that, even in respect of people in the space, is that when it comes to 1031 investing, which is like kind investing in real estate. So if you sell an investment property and you set it up as a 1031 deal, you give your money to a qualified intermediary. You don't take possession of your money. And you have 180 days to find a new property to invest in. And when that happens, you move your basis over to the new property and you defer your tax, and you have a new investment. Well, interestingly, you have 180 days, just like you have 180 days on the Opportunity Zone statute. So most people have just kind of assumed that those two periods run concurrently. But the reality is that, let's say you don't get anything invested in 180 days. So the qualified intermediary returns your money, or maybe you got invested in something but not all of it. And the qualified intermediary can't return your money until that 180-day period. So it's hard to make opportunity zone investment. You could use other cash, but it's hard to make an opportunity zone investment while your money's tied up with a QI, qualified intermediary. And most people think, well, now I've lost my 180-day period to do opportunity zone investing. But here's what people don't know. A taxpayer can choose the date of recognition for a 1031 sale to be either the date of the sale or the date when the qualified intermediary returns all or part of the original sale proceeds. It's basically you elect installment sale. So now if you file your tax return correctly, you have another 180 days to take the capital gains that will have been taxed because you didn't complete your full or any of your 1031 sale to look at investing in the opportunity zone structures. Now you have to file your tax returns correctly and make sure you file, I think it's a form 6252 along with the regular form 8824 for 1031 deals. But that's how you can do that. Now you have a way to save yourself and to defer and to get the benefits of the opportunity zone statute. So that's kind of one of the underappreciated, even by people in the industry, devices you can use.
That's an excellent point. I've been dealing with some 1031 guys for a long time, Gerry, and that's the first time anyone's ever mentioned that to me. That's really interesting. That's an excellent point.
Yeah, no, even if you weren't going to do an opportunity zone deal, this actually gives you a way, if you're selling your property in the last half of a year, to defer your tax event from year one to year two. Right? Most people don't even realize that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, people don't always realize how broadly you can generate capital gains. I'll give you an example. I was just dealing with a rancher up in Oklahoma, and for certain sales of their cattle, those cattle are sold as capital gains. People don't realize that. I was dealing with a guy who has a business where they generate assets over time, and they sit on those assets for a while and then sell them, and then they get Section 1231 treatment, which is similar to capital gains and can be used in opportunity zone investing. They generate Section 1231 gains every year. You know, that guy has set up his own self-directed opportunity zone fund to put those monies in there and make opportunity zone investments. And one really interesting thing, I just got involved in a carbon credits sale. And depending upon how they're created, carbon credits can be a capital asset that generates capital gains when you sell them. So, that goes to the question of getting into the program and generating the kind of capital that qualifies to be used in the program. So really interesting things that you see as you continue to matriculate through this space.
Do you think that it's been about maybe 7-8 years since Opportunity Zones, since the Job Acts created the Opportunity Zones, have they refined the process? Have they learned from what they didn't do and now they made it better? And do you think that the reason that so many people don't know about opportunity zones is because they think they're either too complicated or there's too much involvement with forms and government intervention and all that they don't want to be bothered? So they're losing out on a great opportunity.
Yeah, so I think there's two questions there. Has things been refined? The short answer to have things been refined is no.
Really?
As far as as far as the IRS or case law, there's been no material amounts. There's been a little bit. For instance, there's one of the things I'm going to talk about is opportunity zone roll-ups. And so there has been a private letter ruling from the IRS on how you merge qualified opportunity funds and qualified opportunity zone businesses together. And that's going to be very useful for folks who want to do roll-ups. Roll-ups being you aggregate a bunch of businesses at private company multiples, and then you look to sell at higher multiples, either publicly or to a larger investor. So that's one area where there's been a little bit. But frankly, there just hasn't been a whole lot. I mean, some, as people practice in it, like me and the tax people who practice in it, you know, they've kind of informally with the IRS clarified some things, but really marginal kind of clarification of things. And I kind of suspect there won't be a lot of clarification because the program, I mean, the investment in the program ends in 2027 in respect of capital gains generated through 2026. Thereafter, you can still operate these, and I think they will operate, and you can increase your portfolio and grow your structures. But, you know, it's a relatively short-lived program, and I don't think people are going to get around to creating case law and stuff like that for a while. So not a lot of refinements yet. And as far as your second question about why people haven't gotten into it, yeah, people have. I can tell you from talking to folks who call me and then they say, wow, I didn't get into it because of this and this. They think it's all investing in slums, and it's not. I mean, exactly. It is investing in lower income communities, but a lot of these are already gentrifying, or the demographics in the community as far as personal income is low, but the commercial infrastructure is beautiful. And you can do, you know, there's one opportunity zone in the Dallas area in Plano, believe it or not, one of the wealthier suburbs of Dallas, where right on the main highway, it's called Central Expressway, and the name stands for what it is. It's kind of central to everything, right on the highway. And it just happens that along that highway for the last 70 years has been a very large trailer park, but not much other habitation. And meanwhile, all around it has grown up, you know, great assets, the Costco's, the shopping centers and things like that. But the demographic is low income. So a lot of people think, hey, I don't want to do anything in opportunity zone because, you know, I'm gonna have to invest in bad places. Well, number one, there's a good opportunity wherever you go, right? Even in a place that's depressed, you're going in at a lower basis. So you should be able to make some money. So, I mean, the whole purpose is to get people who generate capital gains and wealth to invest in underinvested communities. And that doesn't mean you're going to invest in a lost cause at all. Other people say, hey, I haven't read. Go ahead.
No, I just said, why would you invest in a bad place?
Well, like I say, you know, you got to make every investment decision independently, right? But if you invest in a dicey area, well, no doubt you're getting in at a very low cost, right? And if you can manage the diciness and bring value, then it might make sense. Now, nowadays where they don't police petty thefts anymore, maybe it doesn't make any sense because you can't protect yourself. I mean, I don't know if I'd put. They complain about food deserts in low-income communities, and then they let people rob the food. Any store you put there is blind. So I don't know. I mean, but you got to make each decision about, you know, with what you do. I mean, so for instance, there's an area in Dallas that is very low income and problematic, but it has a VA hospital in it. Well, we've done opportunity zone investments in clinics and hospitals around that, right? And they're secure, and everything else. So that is, and you're in there at very low cost, and you have a big upside. Number one, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, Gerry, here, it's not that there's opportunity zone areas everywhere. I mean, even rural, you can invest in a farm. Yeah. But here in Vegas, we have a new
Arts District, right? Are you there?
Yeah, it looks like we lost Vicky there,
Vicky?
but yeah, I think we lost
in Vegas, you've got Las Vegas has some of the best. Las Vegas has some of the best opportunity zones in the country.
And they're all over. And my point is that you just have to look for them because they're all over. I mean, who would think that you could build a casino on the Las Vegas Strip in an opportunity zone when you're thinking that you have to invest in depressed areas? That's not depressed area.
Yeah, well, interestingly, there is a limitation on doing casinos as opportunity zone investments. But we actually have been able to do that because there's a workaround for that.
Right, which is what they're doing.
Yeah. The other thing
that's another underappreciated element, right? The casinos.
Yeah, it is actually. In certain ways of investing, you're not allowed to invest in gambling or golf courses or bars or things like that.
You can't open a brothel.
Well, you might. You can't. So anyway, there's legal.
Oh, you mean you could open a brothel?
There's legal businesses that there are limitations on investing. They're colloquially called sin businesses, but we can structure so that you can invest in them. And then there are illegal businesses. Now, if the brothel is legal, there's actually no limitation that I know of at any stage of investing in a legal brothel. Now, I don't know that I really want to be involved in helping somebody do that, but in any event, but basically,
in dispensaries,
you could.
Cannabis dispensaries where marijuana is legal, I mean, that would generate a ton of money in an opportunity zone business.
So there's a lot of people doing that, but marijuana sales are illegal everywhere because under federal law, they're illegal everywhere. Now, they may be legal under state law. So there's an open question as to whether that would be something that the federal government, under the federal tax code, would think you are allowed to invest in on the opportunity zone statute. There's arguments.
Nobody's tried it?
So, a lot of people are doing it, actually. And they're taking the risk that the IRS will say it's okay. But investing in illegal businesses, it's an open question as to whether you can do that under the opportunity zone.
Maybe if you're a politician.
Yes. Especially if you're a politician who has got lots of cover from the media and will try to find every way possible to justify anything you do. And that seems to happen to both sides of the equation.
but that never happens. So, so listen. Gerry,
anyway,
what do you think another one. Go on. I'm going to just say we need to close this out a little bit.
Another to getting back to Vicky's original question, or the second half of her question. Another thing I hear is that, hey, I don't want to tie up my cash from making these sales of capital assets or sale of my business in an opportunity zone vehicle. Well, the reality is you don't tie up your cash. If you set up your own self-directed opportunity zone vehicle with your cash from the sale of a business or sale of assets, it's still your cash. You can still do things with it. In fact, until you actually do invest in opportunity zone investments, actual underlying opportunity investments, you can get access to that cash and use it for whatever you like. You have to structure correctly to do that, and eventually you do have to get in the appropriately qualified asset. But that's an argument I've heard by people who are ignorant of the structure many times. So then, since they think that's the way it is, they never look at it or suggest it to their clients. So, there's innumerable objections that people have, all of which are very uninformed, other than this. I would never have anybody do opportunity zone investing without engaging somebody like me or a CPA who's been involved in it from day one. Because while it's a simple thing to express on a 50,000 foot level, there is some guidance that you need to set up correctly and stay compliant. And it's not that expensive to set up correctly and stay compliant. I do it for fixed fees for a lot of folks, which are very reasonable, partly just because I'm a zealot for the program and I want as many people as possible to get the opportunity to be in it. But anyway, so was there some questions you guys were holding?
Well, I have a couple of comments, actually. One of them is I was going to ask the question which you just answered, in that I think it's really important that you go with a professional like yourself who knows how to do it. Plus, I would imagine when people talk to you and they say, I want to do this, I want to do that, you are experienced enough in the industry to maybe give them some creative ideas and maybe point them in a direction that they didn't even know that they were supposed to go to. I mean, you see that?
Right, and sometimes we can fix things that they've set up incorrectly or didn't set up at all if they get to us quick enough. Right.
And my second comment was at the start of the podcast, we talked about deadlines and things like that and how we kind of, we missed the deference a little bit here and there. But if someone were just to, let's say, just be dropped on the planet Earth today and said they wanted to do an opportunity zone fund and an opportunity zone investment for, they would get the same kind of benefit today that they would have, let's say, if they started 4 years ago in terms of buying a company or running a company and gaining that capital gains advantage. Is that right?
Yes. Anything that you set up through the final date to do so in 2027, you're going to get that tax-free upside if you hold for a bookable period of time in a compliant manner.
Yeah, that's the biggest part of the whole program. That's what makes it so attractive to a lot of guys. And I think that people kind of miss that sometimes when you hear people say, oh, I missed the boat on opportunity zones. Well, you really didn't.
No, you haven't missed it at all. Too many people are focused on the deferral part with the capital gains. The big thing is the tax-free upside. That's why I liken it to a Roth IRA on steroids, because it basically, although you have to have capital gains to invest in, and although those gains will be taxed, it's like investing after-tax dollars to get tax-free dollars out, right? So,
right.
Missing the boat is part of the argument I hear too, but that's only because they don't understand that they haven't missed the boat.
Yeah. And the third thing I was going to mention was when people talk about opportunity zones, they always talk about it as a top-level thing, investing in underserved communities. And what I really like about this podcast is that you're presenting the case that there's so many other options and there's so many other creative usages of it that people may not even have thought of. And, I said before, I deal with a lot of real estate guys who don't even understand it today. And if you gave them this information, they'd be, deer in the headlights type of thing. So, when
I talk to people who are uneducated about it, but they may start skeptical, they may start open, either way. But by the time I'm done with them, they're totally convinced.
Yeah, exactly. And you talk
not
about,
that I care to convince them that much. I just care to give them the facts and the reality.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't really care if they're in or not. I've got plenty of stuff to do.
Yeah, a lot of times these people who are uneducated about the program are the same people who don't understand it that are educated on the program. They still need to know this stuff. So I think this has really been a good informative podcast. So Gerry, people have to get a hold of you now. How do they do that? What's going on with that? Your email or phone, or what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty available. Probably the easiest thing is to email me. I think you're going to put this in the notes to the podcast, but G. Reihsen, Greihsen at swordshieldlaw.com, swordshieldlaw.com, or they can just call me, 214-908-2009.
Well, I think people should definitely call you for sure on a topic like this. Vicki, what do you think about this? Do you think that we educated some people in the audience today listening to our podcast?
I think we did, Ron, and I think that people who had an idea of opportunity zones now can understand. Remember when they first came out, Ron, and we thought opportunity zones were so hot. We were so excited about them, and it boggles my mind that after all of these years, there's still a hot investment opportunity, but people don't know about them for whatever reason. And I would think that if you're a person who's in the position that generates capital gains on a regular basis, that you should find a financial advisor and an estate planning attorney that can help you to create a fund, to call people like Gerry Reihsen to help you to set it up to your advantage and take advantage of the Opportunity Zone program, because it was hot then, it's hot now, and it's going to be hot tomorrow. So get on the wagon, call Gerry, because he's an expert. He's an absolute expert in the country. Call him, get ideas, set it up, make money, be happy. Gerry, you're the best. You're right. Gerry, you're the best, Gerry. We love having you on as a guest. We absolutely do.
Gerry, would you like to have Vicky accompany you to all these trade shows and give you that kind of introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. She can be telling everybody how wonderful I am.
Yeah, you can make a hologram. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for being a guest on the show. I really appreciate it. Vicky, thanks for co-hosting the show. Folks, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast at MappableUSA.com. If you go to that website, you scroll down, you'll see all our syndication sources. Pick the one you like best and subscribe, and you'll never miss another one of our episodes. If you want to be a guest on the show like Gerry was today, just fill out the guest tab. We'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. And if you like what you heard today, send us an email at info@MappableUSA.com, or just leave a comment on whatever page you're listening to right now. So thanks for your support. Thanks for listening. We'll be at you next time with another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great day, everyone.